Welcome back, everybody, to the new and improved Slayer's Lair now, and I'm bringing in my fellow play-by-play to cover the Risen Champs League. It's Gordo, and with the return of the Champs League, Gordo, that means we've got some tier listing to do with the 12 squads. How are you feeling about just the season in general, getting back to Champs?
I am feeling real good there, Slayer. I just realized I should switch on to the real mic.
Oh,
We're gonna get a little jump in audio quality in time, and we're gonna get a jump in league quality as well at the same time because we are back with Risen Champs. It's been a long time since we've gotten to host this league. Always back in Proving Grounds circuit was the last time there was a Risen Champs, back when that was like publicly facing. And there were a bunch of different teams, or a bunch of different organizations running tournaments. So great to have it back. Real excited for some of the teams that we're going to have here this year.
let's just jump right into the squads we got. We'll throw it over to our handy-dandy tier list that we've got on hand here for this little content piece we're doing. And we've got all 12 squads down there at the bottom. And, you know, some familiar teams to divine, Gordo. And there's also some teams that maybe you won't recognize from a logo, the viewers won't, but the rosters that they have on them are pretty hype, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely going to be some familiar names for folks who are fans of the whole NACL qualifier circuit, or stuff like Aegis Champions League and stuff like that. And yeah, as you said, definitely some folks who have been in Risen Divine before and are, you know, maybe looking to still make a name for themselves on a step up in Risen Champs.
Well, let's get started right out the gate here. We're going to go group by group in a sort of way and jump from group to group so there's no real stacking of any sort of weird oddities going on. But we'll start with Group A, and we've got the team that committed to the league pretty early on, I'm pretty sure, when it came up to signups. It's Gentle Hearts Gaming. So this is their fancy logo, and they got a pretty fun roster as well. It should pop up on the screen for everybody watching at home, but just to list them out one more time, it's Diesel, Krakadon, Ariendel, Inoriboob, and Pocus. I don't want to say Pocus. Pocus, Gordo. Some pretty familiar names. This could be I feel like this could be a squad that could make some noise.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be plenty of familiar names there to folks who are really familiar with kind of the uncapped amateur scene. Ariendel, a guy who's had a lot of really good showings over the years. I recall, pretty sure he was on a Supernova roster once upon a time, not the one that ended up qualifying, but one that was kind of up there in the standings during the Proving Grounds circuit era. He's been a mid laner that has had plenty of really good showings over the years. And then I'm really looking at the bot lane here. I mean, Pocus has been making a big name for himself lately, making that run with the Apex Mission Impossible team, as well as, you know, having just been a mainstay of amateur for a long time. And Inori B, who is one of those big up-and-coming AD carries, really young. I think he's like 17, 18, something like that. And he has had some really good showings in his first couple outings in the NACLQ circuit. Really excited to see him here in Risen Champs.
Yeah, that's a theme that we're going to kind of come back to is this like really young North American talent. There's another team I won't spoil, another Oregon here that is really committing to getting into some high uncapped level players at the young age. But Gordo, you know, especially with that bottom lane, I feel like this is Gentle Hearts is definitely a team. I feel like it's at least like an A conversation. I could hear B, but I feel like A or above. I'm curious where you're sitting on a team, especially with that bottom lane like you talked about.
Yeah, compared to the field, I'm starting them at A for sure.
I like it.
Yeah, feels like it's going to be tough to drop them down to B, but once we get to some of these other teams, also feels tough to give them an S. No spoilers there.
But another stacked roster as we jump over to that next group is going to be one that doesn't really scream off the charts with the name. It's not the logo, though silly, is not going to really recognize anybody watching this. Hopefully, it's Samikin Fanboys, which is this nice little cat logo we've got going here for ourselves, and it is a roster with Topo. The jungler, I'm forgetting the name of right now, Gordo. Ben Guy.
Ben Guy. Yeah, it's Yippee Yahoo Yaha / Ben Guy / his new name will not be repeated.
Yeah, will be. So Ben Guy in the jungle, Topo, top lane. Stamikin is your mid laner. We hope is the AD carry listed here, and then Silent Steps is the support. But, you know, certainly the guy that screams out to me off the gate is Topo. I've had some experience casting him. He's been around for a very long time in the amateur and this uncapped scene. Recently, I believe was on that Komodo roster in OQs. He also has played a lot for CCG Esports, which is another team in Risen Champs this league. Has a lot of collegiate experience as well. St. Louis University spent some time, Bay State College, Fisher College he's actually still at Fisher College. He played some time under there as well. And
of course, U of I, my alma mater, Slayer. You got to give it over to. I keep close tabs on all the U of I players, and Topo's right up there by the top of them. We got him and Quacker are the big top lane guys,
right?
And the closest thing to a League of Legends claim to fame we get from that school.
Yeah, exactly, right? Well, talking about the Gentle Hearts gaming squad, they're going to be maybe bot focused when we talk about talent. I feel like, you can tell me if you feel differently, Gordo, but this Semikid fanboy squad, I feel like Topo and Ben Guy are, no pun intended, the guys to certainly watch out for that kind of make me want to bump them up in a similar spot to Gentle Hearts Gaming, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm really willing. I thought I was going to have to convince you to get them out of B and into A. This really does have kind of the bones of that no AoE damage / single target healing roster that has been big in ACL for the last couple of splits and also made a couple of runs at the NACLQ level. That had Ben Guy. It had Zoltate in mid usually, but sometimes they ran Samakin. I think a previous iteration ran Samakin, and they've always had WE Hope as well. So those three guys have a lot of experience together. The mid-jungle synergy especially going to be really huge there. And I've been really impressed with what they've been able to put together. They were I think they had a top 3 run in ACL back in spring. So I'm really happy to put these guys in A to start out.
Yeah, I think, it's fitting, right? These two teams are grouped in at the top slots for now, at least, in the groups, as they've just been listed out to us. And we're going to tier them the same at A. So, I mean, those are two rosters that certainly have names that jump off the page. If you're talking about, guys like Topo, you focused as well on guys like Ariendel, and we're putting them in A tier. So, what is in store for an S tier team? Well, we'll jump to the next group here. The next team is going to be the CCG Esports squad, but it's not going to be their main roster team. This is a team that owner Krim has talked to me a lot about. It's the CCG Futures team, and when we're talking about, the age of Zoomers and Zoomers, challenger players getting into the Champs League, this is one completely comprised of very, very young players. We have Crimson, the very well-known brother of Viper, and Sniper. I don't want to get that one wrong either, because Sniper is, about to be an LCS player, according to leaks. And then Kira, Aojun, Red, and Chai in this team. I believe the average age, Gordo, of this team right now is like 18, maybe like even 17 and a half. It's the true Zoomer squad, the true future squad of CCG.
Yeah, these guys were born into a post-Nintendo DS world, and that's something that's really going to upset me as the rest of the season goes on. Really makes the rest of us feel old. But yeah, a real exciting squad of guys here. Kryra, one that I'm really going to highlight. He had a couple of really good showings at the NACLQ level over the course of this last split. Was also the featured jungler in that Evil Geniuses Futures Combine that they ran a couple of months ago, where they brought in a player in each role and really gave him a lot of one-on-one time with the EG coaching staff. Looks like that's been real good for him. Red as well had that really solid run with Team Fish Taco back in the spring, where they were playing in the qualifier tournament. Ended up getting the spot for free, but we're very close to being able to qualify over Supernova regardless. And Crimson, who I'm sure is sick to death of people talking about his brother, but is the twin brother of hyped NACL prospect Sniper and former LCS player Viper.
Yeah, so it's stacked, and I'm a little biased to CCG because they've been very. Krim is a great guy and been very helpful to my career as just a caster. But I'm willing to throw. I think they are a step up above from Gentle Hearts and Samikin fanboys. I think the hype is just. I think we're going off talent level. I think the only thing that would hold them down to A is that I'm pretty certain these guys really haven't played together a lot. I've been getting news that they've been doing well in scrims. They're already scrimming, as the first week is on Sunday, which, as of time recording, is like a couple days away. But I think talent alone, Gordo, I would put them S. I'm curious how you feel. Are you? Oh, okay. I thought I might have to convince you of that.
No, yeah, I'm all in on that. I mean, the only reason I didn't mention Aojun and support name Che are just for time, frankly. But these guys have been real impressive to me as well. They do have a little experience together. Kryra and Aojun played together on that Cheese Chasers team.
Right.
Got a little bit of time together there, and yeah, I'm super hyped for him. I'm happy to start him in S.
Yeah, all right, easy. Well, speaking of S's, the way it's grouped up, we're just sticking with the CCG stature here. As you can see down here, they got the main logo, if you're a CCG fan, is down here, because CCG, they're also running another roster. This is the one under their mainstay name, CCG Esports, and this one is a doozy, folks, and we have to thank, well, I guess technically you don't have to thank Riot for this situation. Kind of just they're both ending up playing here, but this roster, CCG Esports, this is Dragoon, yes, the lit esports top laner, Dragoon, in the top lane. Gordo, the jungler, why am I blanking on their name?
It's Fnatic, right?
Fnatic.
Is what Caddy
Right.
told us. He's got a barcode username right now.
Yeah.
We've been told that Fnatic is returning to comp. At the very least, he's returning to Champions League comp, TBD, on that old NACLQ circuit. But yeah, they're going to be real excited for him.
Fnatic, yeah, in the jungle. Then Messages, yes, lit esports, Messages, is in the mid lane. Lunar has been a mainstay AD carry, played for CCG Esports on their qualifier run. And then Just is also locked in here. I believe that's might also be a different username, but regardless, I mean, do I need to say much more? I mean, it's like, I don't really know where else to put. Do we have to have much of a conversation?
It's like, I'll even say like 3/5 of an NACL team right here. Dragoon and Messages, no doubt they've earned that title. And I mean, Fnatic has always been like right up at that level as well. Think it back to his time on 100 Next and stuff like that. So really love this squad, and got to be starting them up real high.
We'll move on here to a familiar name in the Risen Circuit, and also amateur Kosa Gamer Squad is bringing in their own squad as well. Gordo, you want to take me through their roster here as we put them up on the tier list?
Yeah, we got Kawhi Aruru in the top lane. That might be somebody under a pseudonym, but I'm not super familiar with them. Aeon Crystal, who has played with this or the CGS team before, under the name, it was a Varker, whatever it was pronounced as. Much easier to pronounce now as Aeon Crystal. He lit up from their previous squad, and then Idol Lol and Psychosocial. So not too familiar with the three members coming in who weren't previously on the Kosa Gamer squad, but the two that were have been mainstays of that squad for a while, and they've been able to consistently make stuff like Aegis Champs playoffs and make those NACL qualifiers as well.
Yeah, they certainly are to have high bar, and we like to have them in champs here. But compared to some of the players we've seen from these other rosters, this Coast Gamer squad does have players, like you mentioned, have made OQs, they made ACL playoffs, but that's usually the most noise they make. Looking with the rest of the field, I'm feeling B if you're buying them high, C if you think there's a lot of better rosters. Where are you feeling, Gordo?
Yeah, I'm really quickly starting to run out of teams where I know too many of the players. That's not any hate towards them, of course. But I think starting Kosa Gamer squad at B is pretty appropriate here. They historically haven't put up the craziest results in that NACLQ circuit, but they're a team that consistently makes it there. That means they do well in solo queue. That means they get votes from the scouting committee, and they've consistently made ACL playoffs competing in similar uncapped leagues. So I'm going to start them off in B, and I'm going to assume they will make playoffs until I have reason to believe otherwise. Yeah,
that's pretty safe bet here, and we are starting to run out of rosters that we kind of know anything about, but I believe we've got...
Don't write us off that much. We maybe know a couple of names here and there.
We definitely know. There's definitely still some ones here. And the next ones we're going to move on to is Nuke Hunters, which I believe is very promptly, that's pretty obvious logo here. This roster, Nuke Hunters, is Vale in the top lane, Saknam in jungle, Holy Carp, KRP, For Rich, and Poor Reasoning at support. Not the most, well-known roster compared to the rest of them, Gordo, but, certainly some hitters that have been around uncapped leagues, I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah, and then playing in NACLQs as well, with this exact same squad back in summer. Pretty solid team here. Not too many players that I've seen separately from each other. I remember being very impressed with Arch, I think it is, for Arch. I think it's a
Oh,
stylized Arch.
right.
I've been really impressed by Arch from what we've been able to see out of him. I believe I cast one of his games against Team Ambition in the last qualifiers, and he and Poor Reasoning had a pretty good showing in the bottom lane at that time. So yeah, coming in, I have them very similar to the Costa Gamers squad. I'm pretty happy to start them in B. I think they just come in with a little bit extra experience, a little bit extra time together as well. I think that's going to be a big boon coming into this competition.
Yeah, it's gonna be the battle. It's something to watch, right? Some of these rosters they have the maybe talent uphold over some other squads, but you also always got to respect the fact that there are 5 stacks that have just played forever. And I know we didn't have champs in summer, but we did have Divine League, and the Divine League champion was a roster that, you know, going into playoffs, guys like myself and Gordo didn't really think that they would end up winning it all. But part of the reason why they won it all was because they had duos in the mid jungle and the bottom support that have been playing together for like 5+ years. It's always just such an unsung thing you got to watch out for. Gravity. Yep, that roster is going to be Learq. I don't want to butcher any of these. Tirum, Popcorn, Vincent, and Ajax. Not too familiar with a lot of these players personally, but that's partly why you're here as well, Gordo.
I'm not going to be able to give you too much backup here. I know we had Learq and Risen Divine in that last split. He played for the IDK LMAO team in Risen Summer. We're not super successful there. I recognize J-Bear on the sub train there, so he's coming in potentially in certain situations where others aren't being able to. But yeah, not super familiar with this roster myself, and you know that might be why we have this question mark tier.
Yeah, this is where I want to introduce the question mark tier. Is we're not gonna do this thing where if we don't know the rosters too well, we're just gonna flame them and be like, oh, you're an F tier. We don't know anything about you. No, that's not fair to any players, and is also just gonna lead to us getting flamed for no reason. So we have the question mark tier here just to put rosters there that are not proven in a tier like the Risen Champs League and could make some noise. And I hate to go back to the Divine League, Gordo, but rosters that made some noise that we had very little knowledge of in the highest league prior to in Risen ended up in the grand finals. So why not see the same thing happen in Champs? It's always possible.
Yeah, definitely. And for that reason, I think this D tier is going to stay pretty empty. We'll have to see. But, you know, if I recognize the names, I'm usually pretty hyped on them coming into a league like this. And if I don't, they're going in that question mark tier. So as we start to move over into Esport TS as our next squad.
Yeah, Esport TS is got their fancy logo here. They're the fourth group here out of group number 2. That roster is Maxi Blob, Teddy, Frigalt, Crazy Man, and SoundCloud TWG. Certainly some fun roster names. Another roster, though, that I am pretty comfortable not really having too much knowledge of, not too much background personally. I'm kind of feeling the question mark, but Gordo, if you have some more on this roster, I'm willing to lean towards your reasoning.
I wish I did, Slayer, but I've looked up all these players in my Google Sheets history, and I don't think I've ever cast a single one.
All right, well, we'll get to cast them now. Question mark.
Yeah, I like the question mark teams, man. I like coming in completely blind on some of these newer squads, and you know, they got the ranks to be here. They made it through the application process. They've earned their spot. Let's see how they're going to be able to do.
Exactly. Fair enough out the board. And then next is ISU Varsity, not Illinois State. It's Iowa State. So it's the Cyclones here. The gaming and esports squad is there back on campus. That would be Tortwig, XRM0, Pico, Motelis, and T-Tizzle. Another roster that I'm not too familiar with. I'm actually haven't seen too much Iowa, Cyclones esports. So I'm just kind of happy that we have another college that we get to see here, but firmly kind of a question mark roster when you talk about the names.
It's a question mark for me too, but I could make a case that we can bias towards the collegiate squads and like just start them in C tier. Just because they kind of come in with a little bit more structure. They get to likely play together in person. That can be both a benefit and a curse depending on how your squad ends up gelling. But I like to be a little bit hyped on these collegiate teams coming in, and in the interest of keeping the question mark tier a little bit more clear, I would start them in C tier.
No, I like that logic, especially after across North America developmental, the best teams that made runs in like NACL playoffs in the summer was Cincinnati Fear. And what was their main buff? A lot of people felt like they all got together and got to play in person. I think that is just such a big factor. Our next collegiate roster, Gordo, that we're a bit more familiar with. You want to take me through the Wolverines roster?
Yeah, UMich Esports coming in with UC World in the top lane, Steven Gilb in the jungle, Sehun in mid, Instant at 80 carry, and Duan making the role swap over to support.
The Dardock run. Yeah. He recently was a jungler, had some time in jungle, also in Risen Divine, spent some time in the jungle there, and now is role swapping to support, maybe inspired by a certain Dardock. Now, I like the U Michigan Esports roster a bit more than the Cyclones, and they also, if we're giving that college buff, I would actually kick them up to B based on the players.
It's a bold choice, but I like it. Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, I know Sehun, Instant, and Duan have all been on this squad together for a while. They're doing a little bit of a roster shuffle going on. I know at one point Sehun was playing ADC. You already mentioned Duan has been playing jungle historically. I've made the case previously, though, that I just give support role swaps the benefit of the doubt these days. They succeed way more often than they fail. And the prior experience of these guys coming together is going to be a huge boon. They're big standouts in Risen. They always come in to participate in Divine. They always come out to participate in some of these amateur leagues. They really like to get their squad drilled up before the CLOL season really kicks off in earnest. And yeah, I'm looking forward to them, and I'll get with you. I'll start with B.
Give some Canadian love here. The University of British Columbia's premier squad. Now, if I were ranking, I know it's pretty small on this screen here, but if I were, I actually can just blow it up really quickly. If I was ranking logos, this would be immediate S tier. I just want to get that out of the way. But the roster they're running is Trophy Troop, Chorps, Okray, Slurps, and Shun. Not really too many names there, and I do know based off of the ELO requirements, they were based off solo queue numbers towards the bottom of the rest of these squads on LP. But a roster I don't know too much about. I think I'm feeling another C based off the collegiate buff we're rolling with, Gordo.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're going to give a C default to ISU here because of the playing together benefit and the collegiate benefit, I think you have to give that to UBC here. I mean, I'm looking at their little UBC website here. They've got themselves a whole setup with a whole gaming lounge and everything. They got a Gen G partnership in here somewhere, if I'm not mistaken, with the logo there, and I don't think I am. And yeah, they definitely have got a lot coming in for them resource-wise. So I'm going to be excited to see what they're going to be able to put together as a squad.
Yeah, another collegiate squad. I like the return of collegiates. We get past the summer, we bring back those collegiate squads who are looking to get some extra reps alongside CLOL, which, is kind of on the horizon for a lot of those collegiate teams. But we've kind of finished our collegiate run here. We're nearly finished with our tier list, and not anything too big to finish out here. We have the kind of, I don't want to call it a goofy name, but like a meme name, Gordo. It's Pick Me Galio, PMG. This is their logo. It's of a cute little Galio cat going on here. The roster, though, is going to be BT, Corky, Hyena, One Tick, Scaife, and Harsh Winter. A roster that has some high solo queue aspirations, a high LP, but not too well known when it comes to the amateur scene, especially when you're talking about developmental.
Yeah, fairly certain that Harsh Winter, they have a lot of different accounts, all of them some theme of Winter, not to be confused with the longtime amateur player Winter. I do not believe it is the same guy. Seems to be a different dude altogether. And another squad that I'm not really that familiar with. I would give them F tier for BT Corky's name if I could. Please, guys, make yourself some stream appropriate names.
Yes.
But I didn't hold it against the Samakin fanboys because of Ben Guy. I can't hold it against this team. They're going in the question mark tier.
And that will round things out, Gordo. So we have a lot of teams here. Certainly some orgs that we are higher on. Certainly some teams we think can make some noise. But overall, what are your feelings on the first return of Risen Champs and the fun rosters we have in store?
Yeah, I feel like we shouldn't have had a D tier at all. That probably could have been scrunched up a little bit. But other than that, I'm really happy with this tier list. I think this is a good starting point for us coming in, just to tell where we're at if you guys are coming on in without too much knowledge of these teams. And yeah, looking forward to getting the season started and throwing all these out the window.
Yeah, exactly, right? If we've learned anything about Risen Leagues in the past year, is that the rosters that we bring and the the feelings we have about these tier lists mean absolutely nothing once Summoner's Rift games kick off. Well, to check those out, one more plug here. We're running Risen Champs weekly in the fall on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can go to the official Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Risen Esports, to come see Gordo, to come see myself, the rest of our broadcast team, and of course, most importantly, all of these lovely players and their orgs that have paid money to compete for the title of Champions of Risen Champs. No pun intended, but that will close things out here. Make sure to tune in there. Gordo, any parting words?
Nah, I won't be here week 1, and I'm regretting it, but that's life. So you guys hold it down. I'll be back for week 2, and I'll be watching from elsewhere.
There you go. Well, week 1 just on the horizon. Thank you guys for tuning in. That's been Gordo. I've been Slayer, and hopefully I'll get to see you guys chatting up there in the Twitch channel. Until then, take care.